Hey guys, let's get more news about Miami Heat, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Heat star Tyler Herro reveals draft guarantee from Celtics. It's been a roller coaster of a season thus far for the Miami Heat, who are currently navigating a slew of trade rumors surrounding their best player Jimmy Butler. Miami currently sits a game above .500 after Tuesday evening's road win over the Golden State Warriors, which was an impressive performance considering they were in a two-overtime game less than 24 hours prior. The most consistent player for the Heat this season, and one of the candidates for most improved player in the NBA, has been guard Tyler Herro, who has seen an uptick in virtually every statistical department thus far in 2024-25. Herro is now in his sixth season with the Heat, and recently, he stopped by the OG's Show podcast with former Miami players Udonis Haslem and Mike Miller to break down how he originally thought he was going to be a member of one of the Heat's fiercest rivals. Months prior, before the draft, it was a dream to go to Miami, said Herro, per NBA Central on X, and on draft night, the Celtics had the 14th pick and they had already guaranteed me the pick for the most part. And then Miami took me right before at 13, so it was a blessing. The Celtics ended up taking Romeo Langford with that 14th pick, one of the rare draft misses of the last few years for Boston. Meanwhile, though he has been inconsistent at times throughout his career, Herro has turned into about as good of a player as you can possibly hope to get with the 14th pick in the draft, cementing himself as one of the best pure scorers in the NBA and showing improvements both on defense and in facilitating so far this year. The Heat find themselves in perhaps the most unique situation of any team in the NBA. On the one hand, they are less than 2 years removed from an NBA Finals appearance with the same core, and have one of the league's best coaches in Erik Spoelstra. On the other, several teams in the Eastern Conference appear to have passed them by over the last year, and Jimmy Butler has made no secret of the fact that he wants to be traded. It would go against everything the Heat represent as a franchise to undergo a full rebuilding mode, so it's more likely that Pat Riley and company attempt to retool their core around Herro, Bam Adebayo, and whoever they might get back in a potential Butler trade than to start tanking. Heat star says it was a blessing Miami swooped him away from Boston Celtics. It has been a season full of ups and downs for the Miami Heat. On one hand, the Heat have struggled with the idea of parting ways with their face of the franchise, Jimmy Butler. But on the other, they have seen Tyler Herro take a step toward stardom. Herro is averaging career-high numbers across the box score. Herro's rise has given a comfort to the Heat as the next face of the franchise. However, the 24-year-old could very well have never been drafted by the Heat. Yes, the 2021-22 NBA Sixth Man of the Year was almost drafted by the Boston Celtics during the 2019 NBA Draft. Herro narrated the story in a recent episode of the OG's podcast. "I was set on Miami months prior before the draft," Herro stated. "It was just like a dream to go to Miami. On draft night, the Celtics had the 14th pick and they had already guaranteed me the pick for the most part. And then Miami took me right before at 13, so it was a blessing." As Herro mentioned, the Celtics had the 14th overall pick in the 2019 NBA Draft. The 2024 NBA champions even guaranteed Herro that he would be drafted by them. However, Herro always wanted to go to Miami and the Heat fulfilled that dream. The 24-year-old says he saw it as a blessing. The Celtics drafted Romeo Langford with the 14th pick. Let's just say Langford never reached the same level as Herro. As for Herro's breakout year, he is averaging 23.6 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 5.0 assists per game for the Heat, who are 18-17 this season and hold the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Where will Jimmy Butler end up? This is the question that everyone around the NBA is asking ahead of the trade deadline, with Butler's time as a member of the Miami Heat coming to an end. The Heat are pressed to decide on Butler's future quickly, yet the All-Star does have a little bit of pull in these discussions, given that he can opt out of his $52.4 million player option to become an unrestricted free agent in the offseason. Although very few teams would be willing to take this type of risk on Butler knowing that he could only be a 3-month rental, the Milwaukee Bucks are an interesting team to consider as a trade suitor. After recently claiming the NBA Cup championship in December, the Bucks have once again hit a rough patch and are just 18-16 on the season. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard can only do so much for this team as the level of doubt surrounding Chris Middleton and his overall status, both health and production-wise, looms large. While Milwaukee's goal is to win another championship this season, the trajectory of this team continues to trend in an uncertain direction. The potential addition of Butler next to Lillard and Antetokounmpo is very intriguing, especially since he would drastically improve the Bucks' middle-of-the-pack defense. The Bucks need some sort of change between now and the trade deadline on February 6, so could they be the ultimate dark horse landing spot for Butler? After all, Butler was linked to the Bucks as a team having ongoing discussions about a potential trade by John Gambadoro of Arizona Sports 98.7 FM in Phoenix. A scenario where Miami could send Butler to Milwaukee is extremely complicated, as the Bucks are a second-apron team, and they're unable to aggregate salaries as a result. However, there is a path to the Bucks acquiring the 6-time All-Star wing and effectively move out of the second apron altogether. Draymond Green thinks relationship between Jimmy Butler and Miami Heat is too far gone. Jimmy Butler is waiting for the Miami Heat to find the ideal partner to discuss a trade after the forward requested a trade. Many are already wondering what will happen if a trade isn't found before the February 6 deadline, especially with multiple teams reportedly being ruled out due to Butler's contract status. Golden State Warriors forward Draymond Green commented on what's going on and said that the relationship between Butler and the Heat is too far gone to be repaired. He added that the player will either get traded or be held out of the roster for the remainder of the season if a trade isn't found. I could see two things happening. I could see Pat Riley sending Jimmy Butler to an organization that he absolutely hates, that's garbage. I could also see Pat Riley saying, "Hey, go home for the rest of the year. Just go home. We'll pay you, that's fine. We're not trading you anywhere." I could see that scenario as well. The scenario I don't see it just playing out with Jimmy back in the good graces with them, and Jimmy just being who Jimmy is. I don't see that. I think it's too far past gone. Butler made an official trade request last week with commenters to the media indicating he wants to play anywhere except Miami. This led to a 7-game suspension by the franchise afterward, which has further hurt the relationship between the parties. An amicable return to the court seems out of the question, and so does a long-term contract extension. Multiple teams are hovering over the Heat for a Butler trade, but no team has matched the level of aggression shown by the Phoenix Suns. That's unfortunate for Miami, as the Suns arguably have the worst assets of all 30 teams in the NBA. If they can somehow flip Bradley Beal for positive assets, they could have a shot at landing Butler in a 3-team deal. Beal has a no-trade clause, so the Suns can't trade him unless he agrees to the deal. He casually reminded the Suns front office of this fact in media comments as well, so it seems Butler coming to Phoenix has a lot of steps before it can be a reality. Outside Phoenix, it doesn't seem like most teams are pursuing Butler aggressively. The Dallas Mavericks and Houston Rockets have been linked with Butler, but it doesn't look like either franchise is going to overhaul their roster to make space for Butler's $48.7 million contract and potential max extension. The Warriors have been discussed as a potential partner as well, but the franchise has been notoriously passive in making win-now trades to help Stephen Curry. The Suns are willing to do everything they can to ensure they get Butler and that Butler is happy with them, but if the Warriors get involved, they could easily outbid Phoenix for Butler. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Draymond Green? Leave your opinion in the comments.